Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today, we're going to be talking about The Pope's Exorcist. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. Our main man here, our leading man, Russell Crowe. This guy. It's been a lot of stuff over the past 2 decades. So, let's go over his successful movies, his bigger movies. So let's do that. So, although technically I could say LA Confidential was the first major thing here, because it is his first notable movie I see here, but for most mainstream audiences, for most of the public, they're going to see Gladiator as his real breakout moment, which yeah, I mean, Gladiator was one of the biggest movies of 2000. Is one of the biggest movies of Ridley Scott's career. I mean, this movie had the whole "Are you not entertained?" That whole iconic scene. Like this movie, really like it really opened a lot of people's eyes to Russell Crowe, and this will be far from the first time like Russell Crowe and Ridley Scott would team up for a movie. They would team up many times after this. But this was their first. And it was a smash hit. And if things couldn't get any better, a year later, you have A Beautiful Mind from Ron Howard. A movie that became this big old hit critically, commercially, awards wise. I think it won Best Picture, didn't it? I think I'm gonna check very fast. Uh, yes, it won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Supporting Actress for Jennifer Connelly. So yeah, I mean, big hit over here, undisputed hit right here. So yeah, things are going great for Russell Crowe. He had like two, strong hits, like one after the other. Then after that, his career went through a bit of a slump. I will go over that in more detail when we get to the cons. But 310 to Yuma did all right. I mean, dude didn't do great, but did okay. Did fine for a western. Uh, and it got like a really good reception. So I mean, just that. But an actual hit Russell Crowe was in would come only a few months later with American Gangster, where not only would he reunite with Ridley Scott, but he would also co-star alongside Denzel Washington. So you had those two actors with Ridley Scott for this project. And those three, they printed money here because this movie did fantastic. Opened with like $43 million, which I believe is still the biggest. It's definitely the biggest of Denzel's career. Still is the biggest. For Russell Crowe, I guess for main roles, it's the biggest. I guess main-ish roles, it's a little, I don't know. It's one of his biggest hits. Let's just say that. It made 130 million domestic, 267 million worldwide on a budget of 100 million. Big old hit. Big hit right there. And what else do we have when it comes to hits? I guess Robin Hood, that's more middle ground. Like it didn't do great, but it didn't embarrass itself either. It did fine-ish for what it was. I mean, it did a whole lot better than the Robin Hood movie that came out in 2018. I don't think anyone on planet Earth remembers that movie except maybe me. I even watched it. I'll remember seeing reviews of it being talk about how terrible it is. I think I saw Chris Stuckman's review of that. And yeah, but Robin Hood 2010 has a decent reputation, I think. I think I'm gonna check now off screen just to make sure. I think it got good reviews. Oh, mixed reviews. Oh, well, never mind. um, okay, got pretty. Ugh. So reviews are not very good, but I think they're still better than Robin Hood 2018. So there's that. Because again, no one even remembers that movie. um, so ignoring Robin Hood, what else? Les Mis. I know Russell Crowe got a lot of shit for this movie because he had to sing, and my God, he was not good at that. Everyone tore him to shreds when it came to his singing. But ignoring that, the movie was still a huge hit. Made over 400 million worldwide. I mean, it got Anne Hathaway her Oscar. So yeah, I'd say the movie was a big old success. Even though Russell Crowe was like the biggest punching bag out of everyone in that movie. There's also Man of Steel, where he was Jor-El, or Superman's space dad. But that was more of a supporting role. But Man of Steel made money despite being a very divisive movie, so there's that. Now, Noah is a lot more relevant because he was the main star of that. Noah, very controversial movie from Darren Aronofsky. That man took some liberties with the source material. But I don't know, maybe either because it was fueled by controversy or because it was like this big disaster movie. I don't know, one or the other. The movie did pretty darn well, made over $300 million on a budget of like 130. That's all right. It's pretty decent, I'd say. It's Darren Aronofsky's biggest movie ever worldwide. So there's that. Despite the movie, definitely not appealing to everyone. Um, let's see what else. I guess there's Love and Thunder. I guess a movie that a lot of people don't like. I'm more in the middle ground when it comes to it, though I'm leaning a bit more towards the negative side than the positive side. But it made money. It was one of the biggest hits last year. Made over 760 million worldwide, 343 million domestically. That's not a bad number at all. I don't get why people call that box office like it's like a flop, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's not an overwhelming hit, but it's not a bomb either. Like, come on now. So, but he played like a very minor role, and that is Zeus, so it's not really important. So Russell Crowe, when he stars in movies, it can work, at least box office wise. But when he most of his recent work, he's like a supporting player, so it's kind of hard to judge him a little too much. But he's had a decent amount of hits. He's very recognizable. He's probably going to be the only reason why people even watch this movie. So, besides the fact that it's an exorcism movie. So, yeah, I say Russell Crowe's presence is definitely a pro here. So, it's pro number one. Pro number two, this is an exorcism movie. I mean, it's literally called The Pope's Exorcist. So, yeah. Supernatural horror, exorcism, that whole thing, possession movies. There's so many of these. I mean, going back to The Exorcist, way back in the 70s, one of the most like iconic, maybe the most iconic horror movie of all time. Going back to that, like ever since then, like there's been this big old explosion of exorcism movies because they're just popular. So I mean, there's so many. Ugh. I'd literally be here all day talking about all of them. But I guess the most relevant ones that I could see. Let's see. Exorcism Emily Rose. That was a big hit in 2005. You can definitely count that. I guess the Conjuring movies. I guess the first one was definitely more exorcism esque. Was Insidious? Does that count too? I mean, the kid was possessed in that. I don't know if that counts. Drag Me to Hell, maybe. That was more of a horror comedy, though. I don't know if that's comparable. Um, but I guess Exorcism of Emily Rose, that is comparable. Uh, trying to think some others. There was like Pray for the Devil last year that did eh. Possessed. this will give me, hopefully, it'll give me something. Give me something good. The Ouija Origin of Evil, the Bye Bye. Oh no, we're gonna ignore that. Um, I guess the Insidious movies to an extent. Deliver Us from Ugh, trying to find some hits here, success stories. The Possession in 2012. There we go. That did pretty darn good. The Devil Inside, despite being a trash movie, made a lot of money for like, it had a really high opening weekend, and despite a brutal decline, it made over 100 million on like a budget of 1 million. So that was a hit. I mean, The Last Exorcism made over 70 million on a less than 2 million budget. So what this shows is that exorcism movies, they can do well if they are presented well. And I feel like Pope's Exorcist has been presented pretty decently, probably better than most of the movies. I mean, I saw the trailer. I think it was in front of John Wick 4. Yeah, it was in front of John Wick 4. And I thought the movie looked all right from the previews. I thought it looked pretty high quality. So it looked nice at least, even though it was just very like familiar like stuff to it. But yeah, I'd say exorcism movies, they are popular, and that's a pro. So that's pro number one. Two, shoot, pro number two. Pro number three. Trying to think of another pro. I guess out of the six movies that are coming out this weekend, this stands like the best chance because it's gotten like a marketing campaign surrounding it. It's from a big studio. They're pushing it enough, not super strong, but enough. And I mean, I know like I was watching WrestleMania Night 2 like 2 weeks back, and literally like a whole match like there was an advertisement for this movie. So I mean, is that, I mean, they're giving it a chance. Not a great chance, but a chance. So I say the marketing campaign is good enough. Like, this movie exists, so that's a pro in my book. Trying to think of another pro. I mean, shoot. I'm trying to think of I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. I don't know. I try. Oof. I can't think of much of anything, so let's just move on to cons. If a pro pops up in my head, I'll let you know. But cons, reviews are not great for this movie. They're pretty mediocre. It's at 47% critic score, which isn't the worst score in the world, but it's not something I'd brag about. But audience score is a lot better. It's at 87%, so we might have a bit of a divide here when it comes to critics and audiences, kind of like what we had last week with the Mario movie. I don't think it's going to be as extreme as that, but it's definitely there. So, but what's its cinema score? I'm pretty sure its cinema score should be up now. It doesn't say. Shoot. So I can't comment on that. But word of mouth is better than reviews, but I can't imagine it's gonna lead to this big explosion at the box office. So word of mouth, critic score not good, audience score better. So overall, it's in a weird territory. So I say bad critics score con, although I don't know how much of an effect it will really have on this movie. It's not like it's a 10% or anything. It's just more mediocre. Um, Another con is that there's six movies coming out this weekend, but the one that could do the most damage to this movie is Renfield. And that's because both this and Renfield are both horror movies. They're both technically in the same genre. Now, Renfield is a horror comedy, while this is more serious horror, but they're both still horror. Having two movies of the same genre come out at the same time is bad, very bad, because what happens is that both movies, they eat into each other's box office, they screw each other over, and nobody wins. And judging by early numbers, it seems like that's exactly what's happening. So, yeah, Renfield being direct competition, big old con there. Not to mention other movies that are out: Mario, Air, John Wick, bunch of movies. It's a lot, and I haven't mentioned all the movies coming out the next few weeks. Next week we have Evil Dead Rise. That's direct competition with this. So yeah, competition from all sides. Con, definitely. Another con, going back to Russell Crowe. He's had some hits, but boy, he's had some duds too. we we can't ignore that. So let's go through his bombs, shall we? Or his most notable bombs. I don't know about Proof of Life. I don't know if that counts. Does it count? I guess. Oh, Meg Ryan. I think these two had an affair, right? They did have an affair. I think they may have had their affair on this movie. um, but the movie didn't do well at all. It bombed, so I guess we can count that. Um, Next up, there's like Master and Commander, which although got really strong reviews, it didn't do too hot financially. It did pretty bleh. It only made like 93 million domestic, 212 million worldwide on a budget of like 135 million. Ew. That's not great at all. Yeah, definitely not great. It got nominated for 10 Oscars. Goddamn. um. So yeah, that's not exactly a fantastic number, and neither is the box office for Cinderella Man, which cost 88 million, made 105 million worldwide. So yeah, that's not good. So things are spiraling down. I think they were spiraling down Russell Crowe's life. I think he got into like a bar fight or something. He had like real anger issues back then. He's definitely mellowed out the last few years, but yeah, back then he had some issues. And things only got worse after that for Russell Crowe. So after Master and Commander and Cinderella Man underperformed, you have A Good Year, which was anything but a good, which is a hilariously ironic title because this movie did horrible. Only made $7 million domestically. 7 million. That's not 7 million opening weekend, opening day. That's total. Period. Almost like 3 million, and it only like literally half of its box office came from opening weekend, which is oh, oh god. Sorry, I had the yawn. It's late. I've been up since like super early in the morning, so I am running on fumes. um, movie. I mean, it did better overseas, but not enough for it to matter. Well, because it costs like 35 million. So this is a big bomb right here, big old L. And this was like, he was this with Ridley Scott? It was, right? It was with Ridley Scott. So these two literally went from Gladiator to that, and then the American Gangster. Although Cinderella Man, who even made that movie? I don't know. Ron Howard. What happened? Like, you go from A Beautiful Mind to Cinderella Man, and you go from Gladiator to A Good Year. Like, it's like literally positive and negative. That's what happened with both Ron Howard and Ridley Scott. Then we got Body of Lies, which once again had, was this Ridley Scott? I think it was. It was Ridley Scott, and also Leonardo DiCaprio. No one really cared though. The movie underperformed, both critically and commercially. State of Play, kind of in the same ballpark. It cost like 60 million, made 88 million worldwide. So, yeah, and I know when you see State of Play, that's not, it's not PlayStation, okay? It's not like PlayStation State of Play press conference. It's not that. All right, it's not. It was just a movie from 2009 that nobody remembers. So, yeah. Robin Hood I already talked about. That's more of the mediocre side of things. The next 3 days did terrible, at least domestically. Only made like 21 million, which is yikes. Did better overseas, but 67 million on a 30 million budget. Ugh. That's not something. Who even made it? I don't even know who made it. Paul Haggis. Who is that? Uh, you need some movies that I never watched. Well, he wrote some movies. Oh, he made Crash. Great. I mean, I don't think Crash is a terrible movie, but should have won Best Picture? God no. It was like the most easy Oscar bait ever. But yeah, next 3 days didn't do well. Man with the Iron Fist, that didn't do well either. That did pretty bad. It only made like 22 million on a budget of like 15 million, so yikes. Broken City, that flopped really hard. Only made 37 million on a budget of 35 million. Ugh. Winter's Tale, same thing. Oh, the 60 million, 29 million box office. Moving on. Um yeah, as you can tell, this is not getting any better. What is this? The Water Diviner. I don't know if this counts though. I think it did better in Australia because it didn't. It did diddly squat here, but it did better in Australia because Russell Crowe is Australian. So, but that doesn't really. I'm not gonna really talk about that. I will talk about the Mummy though. I will talk about this. Oof. There's so much. Oh man, when I talk about Mission Possible Dead Reckoning Part 1, when I talk about Tom Cruise again, I will mention this in detail. Because, but Russell Crowe, like, he was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. No, he was Dr. Jekyll, right? Just Dr. Jekyll. He was Dr. Jekyll, Henry Jekyll. He was kind of supposed to be like the Nick Fury of the failed Dark Universe. I think that was the intention. And man, the Dark Universe, I will never forget how I haven't even watched the movie, but I know how the Universal logo before the movie like turned into like the Dark Universe logo. They were so damn confident it was going to be a thing, and it sure wasn't. It was one of the biggest busts of 2017. So yeah, the Mummy, big old bomb here. And then after that, all I could really talk about, I guess there's Unhinged, which was the first movie to be released um when theaters reopened, when they were like closed for like 5 months. This made a bold choice of coming back of being the first to release it. It was willing to be the guinea pig, and it didn't do very well. But I'm not going to be too harsh for it. Like it's not like the odds were, you know, it's not like yeah, it was kind of screwed. It was very much screwed. But I'm not going to be too harsh for it. It released in a very bad time for movie theaters. It's a lot better now, but yeah, it was the dark ages. So yeah, Russell Crowe, his track record is spotty as hell. So yeah, I'd label that as a con. Another con is that his Thursday previews. I mean, they're not that bad. It's like 850,000. That's not exactly great. But I don't know what to compare this to, really. I guess I could try to find a comparison. I mean, compared to other horror movies, I mean, this is nothing in comparison to like Megan, and Scream 6. Like, those are well past that. They're not even comparable. Uh, Pray for the Devil. Did that have preview numbers? I don't know if it did. I'm gonna check. Pray for the Devil. Give me something. 660,000. So, I mean, that's better than that. I mean, there was that at least. Although that movie had really good timing. It was very close to Halloween, but only opened like $7 million. So, to only do like marginally better than that. That's not great. So Yeah, mediocre, hard mediocre Thursday previews. I'm labeling those as a con. Um, I think that's it, really. Yes. So opening weekend, I really thought this could have hit mm, like mid double digits, like 15 million. That's what I thought going into it, or at least several weeks in advance. But that's not happening now. So 10 million might be even a stretch. So I'm gonna say 8 to 10 million. I'm gonna have a bit of a wide range. 8 to 10 million opening weekend. It's total 20 to 30, I guess. And that's really it. So yeah. All right. We're halfway there. 3 more to go. So Renfield, Suzume, Sweetwater. Those will be next. And I already did Mafia Mama and Nefarious. So if you want to watch those prediction videos, go right ahead. But yeah, that's it. And you want to stay tuned for the others, go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? Got playlists on the homepage, all previous um prediction videos I made this year. If you watch any of them, any other ones I've done the past few years, go right ahead. There's also box office recap. No, the canceled series, where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I don't think I ever covered Pope's Exorcist. Have I? No, no, I have not. I think this movie was supposed to come out like last weekend, and then it got changed, and but I didn't know about it until like way after the fact. And when I found out, I just said screw it. I'm not gonna make a cancel episode on this. It's not worth it. So I just didn't make a cancel episode on it. But there are 185 episodes of canceled out there. So if you want to watch any of those episodes, you want to watch them all from beginning to now, and want to binge them all from beginning to now, I highly encourage you to do that. So go do it. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. March recap will come out later today as I'm recording this later today. So if you want, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I've made on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.